Okay guys, I'm back again. I'm really sorry that it took me so long to do another video. We'll call it COVID-19 madness, homeschooling the kids, etc., etc. So I didn't really have time until now to sit down and do another video. So I'm going to go again and answer questions that I got since the last video first, so that we get all those answers over and I don't forget anything. I'll let you know too that my strawberry bed is all finished now. I'm just waiting to get some more chicken wire from the store and it looks great. So the first questions I have are from Veronique, and she asked if Brussels sprouts could go outside. So if you have grown them inside, you need to harden them off, meaning you have to take them out for a little bit of time each day and then bring them back in. And then take them out the next day for a little bit more time and then bring them back in. But after that, you should be okay to put Brussels sprouts out now. The only thing is, same as like some of the other plants, if it looks like it's going to be -10 and snowing, which is unlikely now that we're almost in May, but if it is, maybe just cover them up for the night to keep them safe. But definitely, if you're taking any of your seedlings outside now, you need to harden them off slowly. So I usually take 3-4 days to harden off all my seedlings. So the first day I'll take them out for maybe an hour or two, not at the sunniest time of day, maybe morning sun or afternoon sun. Then the next day they'll get about 3 hours. And then the next day after that, I'll put them out for about 4 hours. And then the next day I'll put them out for about 5 or 6 hours. It's the wind too, it's the sun. All of those things are things that they're not really getting inside to the full effect that they would outside. And so you really have to give them time to adjust to all of those things, or they're just gonna get too cold right away, or too dry, or wind will just blow them right over. Remember, if you have seedlings that are getting a little bit leggy, it's often a good idea to give them some support, a little bit of support when you bring them outside, or else you might just break all your stems, and that's kind of devastating if you've been growing them for like 8 weeks. Veronique also asked about, she bought some strawberry plants, and she wanted to know if she could plant them right away. Yep. Go for it. They're cold hardy plants. They're supposed to be outside right now. They're supposed to be like starting their growing right now. So yeah, put them in the ground right away. Again, same thing. If you just bought them from a nursery and maybe they've been in a greenhouse, then give them some time. Maybe put them outside for a bit, but likely as they were probably potted and grown outside or in a colder greenhouse. So they're probably fine. You can just put them right in the ground and they'll start, you'll see like strawberries are starting to take off in the next like week or two. They're going to start to get really, really green and take off and look great. Jocelyn asked about her last year's strawberries. So she wanted to know if they were still good. Yep, for sure they're still good. Just do what I did and make sure that you don't have like 6 or 7 strawberry plants all bunched into one area. They won't grow as well. So kind of separate out your rhizome, your root areas of each strawberry plant, and plant them about 6 inches apart, and they'll be fine. So remember, a lot of compost for strawberries and things like that. So today I thought it might be a good idea, as we're kind of, oh wait, ha! I have one more question. It's from Mia. What is the best time to like move her strawberries? So she has her strawberry patch in one area and she wants to switch them and space them out into another area. If you're going to move them, you either want to move them now, or if you can't move them in the fall, because you don't want to be moving strawberry plants when it's really, really hot outside. They're going to die and that's not going to be great. So if you're going to move them, definitely move it when it's cooler out and still wet. She is worried because she's going to put something in that area. So if you don't have somewhere else to put them and you need to move them, they do really great in pots. Like, they love pots. As long as you keep them well watered, you'll get strawberries no problem from strawberry plants in pots, and then you can plant them where you want them to go in the fall. So those are all the questions for today. Please send in more questions. I love them. And I really I don't know where you guys are at or what you need help with. So let me know and I'll help you as much as I can. Today we're going to talk about tools that we use in the garden. So, we're getting a little different kind of sun. So I'm going to start off with my hand tools in the garden. Let's figure out which way is the best way here. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're using the right tools to make your job a little bit easier. And, okay, I think I was better over here. Sorry, guys. So, I'm going to start out with shovels since the sun is not cooperating. Okay, so first things first with all your garden tools in the spring, make sure they're clean. So give them a good clean and oil them up. Make sure that all of your joints are moving well in all your snippers and everything like that. And then you want to sharpen them if you can. And Leo, do you want to say hi?
Hey.
Okay, I'll say hi.
Hey.
Okay, go play. Yeah, just go over there. And so, yeah, just make sure they're really sharp, because if not, you're going to hurt yourself. You'll get some sort of carpal tunnel. I've done it, so this is why I say this, is that if they're not sharp and you're using them for the whole day in your garden, you're going to hurt your hand. You're going to hurt the muscles in your hand, and you're going to hurt the muscles in your wrist, and it's not very good. So just make sure that they're nice and clean. They've got WD-40, and they are nice and sharp. So you can get, for most hand pruners and loppers, you can get a pruner like sharpener. It's just a little stick and you just run it along the edge, and then when you do that, it sharpens the blade enough for you to keep using it. If your pruners are really garbage, just get new ones. They're not super expensive, and it's going to give you a pain just to try and use them like that. So let's talk shovels. So I have lots of different shovels that I use. So you've got your regular spade shovel. This is just a boring shovel that you use in the garden all the time. I'm using my shovels a lot. So what I do is I take a grinder and I sharpen the edge of my shovels. And so this lets me go through the ground really easy, and it helps kind of save my body from all the work that I have to do. So if you have a grinder or you have someone you know that's handy, they just have to kind of go along the edge of the shovel and it just kind of sharpens it. If you do this though, please be careful, because it sharpens it to very sharp and you can definitely cut your fingers on it. Another good garden tool that I use and absolutely love is this shovel here. So this shovel here is called the Root Slayer. I love the geeky garden names. So the Root Slayer is really, really, really amazing for removing plants that are dead and in your garden or have gotten too big, or you need to move them to a different spot. This is a serrated edge, and it will cut through. I've seen it cut through roots that were like 3-4 inches thick. Now it's still like a manual labor, so you've got to put the effort in to get it to work, but then it's so much easier than using a regular shovel because it's serrated along the edges. So this is definitely like a pro tip. If you're moving plants around in your garden, they can have some crazy roots. Grasses, like especially ornamental grasses, have huge root systems. Get yourself a serrated shovel. It is going to save you 100 times the amount of work as if you're just using a regular shovel. I use those all the time. The next tool that you're going to have is an edger. You can also use like a straight shovel if you have one of those. If they're a flat straight shovel, they don't have an edge, like a beveled edge on the side. And this is just to cut the edge of your perennial or vegetable garden every year. This is, to me, the most important step that you can do when you're cleaning out your garden in the fall. I would rather an edged garden than a raked garden any day. Grass is the biggest pest in gardens. It is always trouble. So if you come along every year and you do a nice crisp edge all along your garden beds, it changes the look of your garden so quickly, It looks so fresh and so clean and so well maintained. This is my number one thing that we do in gardens that makes the biggest difference. And the big thing to do when you're using the edger, so I'm gonna try and figure out how to show you this. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but you come along with your edger, you stomp in your edger into the ground about 3 to 4 inches. I'm in rock here, so it's not going to happen. And then you kick your edger so that you get a divot, like a divot along the edge of your garden that's maybe 2 to 3 inches deep. And so because you have this edge now, if you put in mulch, the mulch will run down your garden when it rains and stuff, and it'll want to go into your grass. But if you put in a heavy edge, the mulch will get caught in this edge, and you won't have this like overflow of mulch into your grass and everywhere it's not supposed to go. It is the biggest thing you can do to make a change in your garden. Okay, now we're going to do some hand tools. So this one here, it's really rusty because we use them a lot, is the same type of idea as this one here. Okay, so this is for getting out those big, nasty, deep root weeds in your garden. So this could be for dandelion or some of the perennial wildflowers in our area also have pretty deep tap roots. They get really stuck. You take this, you shove it down the side of the root, and then you pop it up. And when you pop it up, it brings up at least 6 inches of the root, if not the whole thing. And because you're doing this, it gets out all of the root and you won't have any of it coming back. I often watch people weeding their garden and they're picking the weeds from the top. And that really is only going to work this time of year right now, if they're a seedling. Most of the weeds that are coming back in your garden started rooting in the fall. So these aren't tiny little plants. They already have a root. You need to get that whole root out, or else you're going to be weeding that exact same weed all summer long. Okay, you got your planting shovel. It seems like kind of a useless thing, like it's not really that sharp. But if you're coming in and you've got 3-4 flats of annuals you want to plant in your garden, it lets you make the exact same size of hole for all of them, so that you don't have some of them that are too deep or some that are too high and poking out of the ground. You just do the same hole. I have another one that I use a lot for tulips that has measurements on here, but you can even just measure how big this is. And then when you're putting things in, you can make sure you measure it to the same spot, you know? Because a lot of the time when you're planting tulips and stuff like that, it'll tell you plant 4 inches deep or 5 inches. Like it'll tell you exactly how deep it has to go. This tool is really handy for that because it'll give you the uniformity to go down the exact same depth every time. Plus, it like saves your hands from like clawing in the dirt. Try to avoid that if you can. Okay, so you got your hedge trimmers, your manual loppers here, you got them. This is a great tool to use if you're pruning. I have a gas hedge trimmer and we use it for sure for big long hedges that, like we have some customers that have got like 100 feet of hedge. You're not going to do all of that with a hand like hedge trimmer. It's just not going to happen. But if you only have a small garden, always use the manual tool. Don't use the gas tool, because the manual tool is so much better for the plant. Hedge trimmers, they get hot, and so it ends up kind of singeing the end of the plant, which again, when you have 100 feet is not a big deal because you can't really see it. But when you have a smaller garden, you're going to notice these like little things much faster than you would anywhere else. So use the manual tool. If you have a small garden, use it. Get the exercise, chop it with your hands and your arms, and it will work much better, and it's better for the plant. You can kind of see where you need to trim things a little bit better too, and that is like a huge bonus. Okay, this is, I think, a mandatory tool for every gardener, and this is just like a pop-up saw. A bow saw would work the same way. This thing just kind of pops out and it's a saw. So if you have any sort of branch that you need to trim off that's bigger than I don't know, half an inch, you're not going to be using your bypass hand trimmers. You're going to be using a saw because you're going to hurt your hand again. So use that saw to chop off anything. Plus, it gives you a nice clean cut. You want, if you're chopping off anything from your trees or your bushes or your shrubs and they're big, you need to get a nice clean cut off of them, or else you're going to get infection into your plant because it's not a clean cut and it can't dry properly. Sorry, I forgot one of my tools. So I'm going to get it from the truck. But yeah, you want to make sure you're making as clean as cut as possible. And so that plays back into the keeping your tools sharp all of the time, is because it's better for the plant. You don't want to crush the branch. You want to cut the branch so that it can heal, it can dry, and it can make its own scab long before anything gets in there. Okay, so we got our bypass pruners. This is probably the #1 garden tool that most people use. Super handy. You do this for hand pruning. So hand prune as much as you can. The long hedge trimmers are great if you have like a circular bush and you want it to all look very circular. But when you use a bypass pruner, you see the plant more and you're kind of looking inside the plant, and you'll find the branches that are maybe crossing each other and rubbing. Take those ones out. Or if you have branches that look kind of dead and dry, take those ones out. And I find when you're using a hand pruner, you have to get much closer into the plant. So you're going to notice things a little bit quicker than you would if you're using a larger hedge trimmer or stuff like that. So you'll notice spots of disease on branches. Then you can take that whole branch out. Or if you notice the branch has a big scratch up it, or it's cracked, all its bark is cracking from the winter, it got damaged, take that branch out. Everyone, when they're pruning, is always very timid about their pruning. It is the hardest thing to kind of get over, is just cut it. If something doesn't look good, cut it off. Like, your plant will come back. Always, I think you should look up the pruning guide of each plant that you prune on when it should be pruned. Generally, most plants need to be pruned either in the spring or in the fall. And usually it depends on if they flower, and if they flower, when do they flower. So if you have a plant that flowers every year in the spring, you don't want to prune it in the fall because it's not going to grow over the winter. It's going to flower in the spring. So you want to have it all pruned every spring after it's finished in flowering. Unless this is a plant that you're getting fruit from, then it kind of ends up being the opposite. Either way, look up the guide for the plant that you're trying to prune. Follow the guide and don't be timid. Cut off the stuff that needs to get cut off. It'll grow back. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Okay, and then other tools I use, just a regular fan rake. I have just to rake out your garden, and then a hard rake. And a hard rake is a really, really useful tool that doesn't get used as much. And we use them a lot when we have gardens that are having kind of compaction issues with their mulch from last year. You just kind of go in with a hard rake and push it all around, and it fluffs it all up for you. I don't have the exact hoe that I wanted to show you today. So the best hoe for kind of the weekly gardening weeding, if you want to use a hoe instead of getting down on your knees and hands, which I highly recommend, is a scuffle hoe. So it just kind of is a wide disc on the end of the exact same type of pole, and it kind of moves like this. And so you just kind of shake it around, and it'll cut off all of the seedlings that have started growing in your garden, the weeds basically, and it'll cut them all off. You don't even have to pick them up. You can just leave them there and they'll die in the heat. This is the same type of idea. It's just a little rake, and it's for going into your garden. You just kind of put it in your garden and kind of scuffle it around like this. And this will kill any new plants you're getting from this year. So any plants that are growing from a seed, so say it's a dandelion or whatever, the seeds blew into your garden in the fall, they hadn't started growing, they're growing now. So they don't have big roots or anything. You just scuffle them with one of those hoes through your garden. that's adequate. They'll die, and it's a lot less work. You can do it standing. You could do it while drinking a beer even. You can just walk along and scuffle along in your garden, scuff it all up, fluffs up all your mulch in the garden, and it's super easy. It's way better on your back. You can also use one like this. So we have a hand version of this, and we have a long handle version of this. This is just like a little hand rake, and they're great too. So you get in there and you just scuffle it around in the mulch, and then that's going to get all the weeds that have started growing. It just cuts them off. They can't keep growing. They dry out. They die. Much, much easier than going and individually picking each weed that has come and shown up. But remember, that only works for the new weeds. The old weeds that have big roots, you're going to have to go in and put the weeding knife down along the side of them and pop it out. Other things that I've got in here, fertilizer. I've got a little bit of hen manure, which is great for bulbs and stuff like that. It's kind of a slower release. And squirrels don't like the way it smells, so they leave your bulbs alone. I got a pair of Birkenstocks, mandatory garden attire for sure. I got an X-Acto knife, okay? So X-Acto knives are really great in the garden to have in your pocket, because a lot of the stuff you buy in the garden comes in a bag, and you can really hurt yourself if you open 20 bags of mulch in a row. It's not good. So having an X-Acto knife is awesome. I have a leaf blower that we use. It's gas, and a gas hedge trimmer that we use. And so these are both really great tools. If I had to pick one electric tool or gas tool to have, it would be a leaf blower. I know it sounds nutty, but even for the home gardener, if you finish doing your garden and then it looks great, and then you come in at the end with the leaf blower and that just gets all that dirt and everything out of there, it really finishes things off super, super nice. Tools that I didn't have with me. So I have from Lee Valley Tools, I have a lopper. So a lopper is a much bigger, long-handled pruner that you use to take off branches. And so I have one that's a ratchet lopper. And so this one is great because it takes a lot of the force out of your body and into the ratchet. So you just click it, and then you click it, and then you click it, and the branch is gone. So it's a lot less work for your arms. You're not like hacking at it as much, and it's better for the tree because you get a nice clean cut along it. So that one's from Lee Valley Tools. That is my last piece of advice from about tools for your garden, is that buy good tools. I know it's such a easy thing to follow, and I probably said it about plants and everything else, but buy the good one. Buy the one that maybe costs like $25 instead of $15, because it's going to be made of a better quality metal that you can sharpen, and then you can keep it forever. And honestly, you could, if you're a home gardener, you could have the same good quality garden tools for 10 years. So it's worth the investment to not buy the garbagey tools. Buy the good tools. Buy the good quality electric or gas tools. Don't buy the cheap ones. They always break and their warranties are garbage. So just get quality. Take care of them properly. So remember to oil them up a little bit, sharpen them, use some WD-40, and keep all of the moving parts moving smoothly, and everything will be great. Oh, there's one tool that I totally forgot. Well, two, technically. They were over here. That's why I forgot them. It's not my fault. Pitchfork. I know it seems like not something that a small home gardener would have, but if you have soil that's getting really, really tight and you really need to loosen it up, there is nothing better than using a pitchfork. You push it down and then you pop it up, and it's going to loosen up all of that soil for you. And so what that does is it helps you mix in compost and stuff like that into your garden a lot better. But it's also going to help you get the weeds out with a little bit less headache. And then the other version of this type of dirt loosening tool is the Golden Claw. Again, another cheesy gardening name. This is the Golden Claw. And so this one, you just twist it, and it's really great at loosening the dirt. And the good thing about both of these tools is when you use them, you don't want the dirt to flip over. You don't want the bottom dirt to come on top of the top dirt. You want the bottom dirt to stay on the bottom dirt because the bugs and the microbes that live there want to live there. They don't want to live on the top dirt. It's too dry, so they'll start to die. So both of these tools allow you to loosen the soil while keeping your soil layers in the proper order. So they're super, super valuable. Okay, I think that's it. If there's anything else that you guys have questions about tools, I'd love to hear some questions and give you some answers. I'm going to try and stick it to a week to do another video. I try not to leave it too long. And please, if you have questions about anything else in gardening, let me know and I might be talking about it next time. Okay,